Good afternoon. Before anything else, receive a huge warm embrace from Anan. And as I promised, today I was going to be talking about multi-orgasmic experience for the men. And last time we did an introduction about what is a multi-orgasmia, and this time what I would like to do is to start from one issue that do not allow us to connect to the multi-orgasmic static experience that men we can have as implosion or explosions. First of all, one of the main problems that we have in our 21st century is that we are connected to one concept, that is that orgasm is the sexual stimulation that takes you to climax, and as a result of that climax takes you to an ejaculation. That's a major problem in our society because that had not allowed us to explore what is expansion of the sexual energy, that had not allowed us to connect to the ecstatic experience, to be in bliss state, and all these concepts that are regarding neosexualism and tantra. Well, the major problem that we have is this concept of orgasm was came out, with a very primitive aspect of what it was an orgasm. The Greeks they call the solo op of an orgasm. Then in the 1600s, the French society started to be very open about sexuality, and as a result, the females, when they wanted to get and reach the climax, they say to the men, orgasme, and take me to climax. This main concept was taken and put it regarding the men. Take me to climax, and as result, I need as climax to ejaculate. And the major problem that the climax, as we know, that these implosions and explosions of energy and sexual arousement into the body can take you to multi-orgasmic states of sensations and multi-orgasms. Then what I wanted to explain to you is that the major issue that comes out of this is that in the 1900s with the Industrial Revolution, this concept evolved in order to just to put it like a structure. Okay, I'm stimulated, I'm sensualized and sexualized, and then as a result, I have an ejaculation. I then see it as an orgasm. I see it as an ejaculation. Then ejaculation equal orgasm. Then this major problem we have it right now in the 21st century that men we cannot connect with the issue of having different kinds of orgasms that are not ejaculation. That's one major issue that we have, and that we need to change it in our parameters, how we think about how is the sexual stimulation in our bodies, and how when we reach climax, it doesn't have to be related to an ejaculation. Now, the second thing that we need to take into account is that orgasm is linked to a behavioral state of the mind and the body. What I'm saying this, when I'm saying this is that when you have an enclave that takes you to a climax state, let's say it's erotical spots, let's say it's words, let's say it's behaviors, or let's say it's inputs that they come into your body, that anchor takes you directly to climax. But you need to have that anchor in order to get you to a climatic state. If you don't have that anchor, then of course, then you cannot reach that climatic state, and so on. The other issue that we have is that that is embedded in our body, but also that's embedded in our mind, the anchors. And this structure do not allow us to connect with the body and with our mind in different kinds of processes that can be leading to stimulate our senses, to stimulate our bodies, to stimulate our mind, and then get a different result of climax that can give you awareness what is happening here in here, but also in the body and also in your sexual organs. Okay, then this is a major disadvantage. Two things: the concept orgasm, and second thing, the how we are related to the climax, us as men, but also how we are related not only to the climax but the sexual stimulation. Now, we can, men and women, we can unprogram this, and you're going to ask me, well, Anand, how I can program 20, 30 years of the same kind of stimulation that I have and takes me to orgasm and take me to ejaculation. First of all, we need to sense that the main tools that we are going to have exactly body, mind, senses, and how we are related to this. Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that we are going to see is how we can relate it to the stimulation that is in my body that provokes different kinds of states of pleasure that comes into our mind and it comes to our body. The major issue is that men, we need to sensibilize not only the parameter of the skin of the body, but also the senses. How I hear, how I look, what do I smell, what do I taste. When I say senses, all the knowledge of the human being is coming out of the senses. The senses capture the knowledge and the feeling and the data, and it comes as a thought, and that thought comes as a inner process in order to create one stimulation that can create a thought, a sense, an emotion, or a feeling. Now, if we as human beings we are not connected to our body and to our senses, then as a result we cannot start to relate differently with the senses and the triggerings that this can develop to our mind and how we can embody that into our mind. Then the major issue right now, if you would like to connect to the multi-orgasmic experience, is to sense your body, your physical body, and also sense how those stimulation can create into your body, but also how do you smell, and how do you see your partner, and how do you see yourself in a mirror, and how do you hear yourself, and what is the interrelation that you have with all this knowledge, and how I can become awareness of this relationship that I have. Now, once I become in awareness of my senses, once I become conscious of my body and how my body interrelate to the senses, then I have to approximate to one particular issue that is the stimulation. Mm-hmm. Everything that comes to our senses is an stimulation. Then therefore, what I wanted to be in awareness or consciousness or to be witnessing is how a sound can trigger something into my mind, but also how that sound can affect my body, how that sound can be connected to pleasurable states. Mm-hmm. And how can I relate this pleasurable state to erotical spots into my body and to bring awareness how that erotical energy, that is pleasure energy, is started to interrelate to my sensation of being in pleasure. I know that it's difficult, all these concepts, but believe me, once you start to reaccommodate how you define your relationship with your body and with the senses, and how you can interrelate it to the pleasure of the stimulation, then the erotical process that you are going to start to develop is completely different. Now, the third major process that we have is that eros, erotica, the pleasure concept of erotica, it comes out of Victorian times. Pleasure is linked to sex. Now, What we need to see is that pleasure is not linked to sex. This erotical pressure that you can have, it can be linked to touch and develop the sense of your skin to be touched, but also the pleasure to be linked to that. And this erotical situation of being not linking an stimulation to the sex by itself can start to trigger the other process that we need to be in to become into awareness, that is the sensualization. Once I started to embody that one stimulation, either to the senses, to the eyes, the smell, the touch, the taste, once I started to link it to the pleasure, then I started to become awareness how my senses are starting to open and create pleasure of it, embody it into myself, to start to feel it, really feel it, that stimulation, not only as a pleasure in one state, but how I can sense it into myself. Once I'm sensed this erotical process, then I'm dividing how the stimulation is becoming into my body. Once I started to this and how it's interrelated to my sexual awareness of my sexual pleasure on in my organs and my tastes, and how it's starting to be accumulated into my body, then I started to generate and link directly to what is called the awareness of the sexual response. This sexual response that we are having when we are stimulating, and remember, the sexual stimulation can be seeing something, smelling something, or touching, that sexual response that you are having, and started to link to that sexual response, then that's when we started to be sensing what is sexual energy. In that precise moment that we are sensing what is a sexual response into our body, and how is this link into our sexual organs, and the sexual organ started to respond to that sexual stimulation, then that's the key in order to start to connect to a multi-orgasmic experience. Why? Because then in that precise moment we are going to be feeling how the sexual response, the sexual stimulator, is starting to be accumulated in all my physical body, but also in my mind. And when pleasure started to take over your thoughts and is invading all my body, then we are ready to start to have implosions of sexual energy, of that sexual response. Then the target in order to resume is that today we need to learn how to interrelate it to our body, to our mind, to our senses in order to start to feel what is the stimulation, what is an erotization moment, what is a sensualization, and when is coming a sexual response into our body. And that sexual response, how is starting to trigger effects in our sexual organs, and how that sexual organs starting to accumulate pleasure into the body and into our mind. Then we started to reprogram how we link ourselves to that sexual response. Once we started to link to this sexual response with our mind and to our senses and that pleasure that is coming, then we start to have the battle win in order to have a multi-orgasmic experience. Then until now I'm going to be stopping with this because this is really nice to talk about multi-orgasmia. Next time I'm going to be starting to talk about different kinds of orgasms that we have. Then see you next time, and I hope too that this helps you in order to reset how you are thinking about your orgasms and how you're relating to your sexual conduct and your sexual life. Enjoy today. Today in Amsterdam is going to be one day before King's Day, and then hope that you enjoy the day. Take care and see you soon.